Hey, so this lesson is on factoring trinomials, which is a pretty big concept. I'm pretty sure you will see this on your EOC. So let's just get into it. If you would please write this first problem down and I'll show you how to do it. All right, we are going to make a t-chart over here. And I'm going to do my first times my last. So x squared times 8 is 8x squared. I'm going to put that answer here. So this was first times the last. Here is what's in the middle. And the middle is 6x. So I'm going to put that here. Now, underneath this first column, I'm going to list everything I could multiply to get 8. So I could do 1 times 8. I could do 2 times 4. And that's it. That's the only way I can multiply to get 8. So one of these two is going to be my answer. The way you figure out which one is your answer is whichever one will add up to give you this. So you want to add them to get 6. Well, 1 plus 8 is 9. That doesn't work. 2 plus 4 is 6, so that's going to be my answer. So here's how we're going to write it. We're going to do 2 parentheses. I'm going to split up my x squared into an x and an x. And then my answers were a positive 2 and a positive 4. Now, I know you're probably like, what did she just do? It's okay. Let's do another one. It's going to make sense. All right, again, make my t-chart. First times last goes here, so that's 16x squared. Your middle is a negative 10x, so I'm going to put negative 10x here. So this number was first times last. This number is what's in the middle, negative 10. How can I multiply to get 1 times 6? Or how can I multiply to get 16? Well, I could do 1 times 16. I could do 2 times 8. I could do 4 times 4. And that's it. Now, I want to add, remember we add to get this column, to get a negative 10. Well, none of these will add to give me a negative. So let's think about our rules for multiplication. How can I get a positive answer multiplying, but get a negative answer adding? And the answer is we can make them both negative, right? Because negative times a negative is positive, and negative plus a negative is a negative. So I'm going to make all of these negatives. So they'll still multiply to give me 16, and hopefully one of these will add to give me negative 10. Well, negative 1 and negative 16 is negative 17, so that doesn't work. Negative 2 and negative 8 is negative 10, so that's going to be my answer. So again, here's how we write it. Do 2 parentheses. Split up your x squared into an x and an x. My answers were a negative 2 and a negative 8. All right, let's do another one. Make your t-chart. First times last is 24x squared. Your middle term is 11. To multiply to get 24, I can do 1 times 24. I can do 2 times 12. I could do 3 times 8. I could do 4 times 6. And that is it. So I want to figure out which of these will add to give me 11. 1 plus 24, that does not work. 2 plus 12 is 14, that does not work. 3 plus 8 does work. That's going to be my answer. So do your 2 parentheses. Split up your x squared into an x and an x. And my answers were a positive 3 and a positive 8. Let's do another one. All right, sometimes you're going to get your chart and you're going to realize, wait, nothing works. That's okay. All that means is it's not factorable. So let's do this one. First times last is 2x squared. My middle term is negative 5x. So I can do 2 times 1, and that's really it. To multiply to get a positive and add to get a negative, remember from that other problem they both got to be negatives? Well, if I add these two, I get negative 3, not negative 5. So this one, that is one that is not factorable. Okay, so if you get a chart and nothing works, you didn't do anything wrong, it's just not factorable. All right, let's do this one. First times last is negative 11x squared. Your middle term is 3x. So I could do 1 times 11. And the only way to get a negative is if one of them's negative and one's positive. So I'm going to do negative 1 and 11. I'm going to do 1 and negative 11. If I add these, I get 10. If I add these, I get negative 10. Well, neither of those add up to 3, so it's not factorable. Okay, let's do this one. First times last is negative 10 x squared. Your middle term is negative 3x. So I could do 1 and negative 10 or negative 1 and 10. I could do 2 and negative 5 or negative 2 and 5. And that's it. So let's see if any of these will add to give me negative 3. Well, this is negative 9, so that doesn't work. This is positive 9, so that doesn't work. This is negative 3, so this is what I'm going to use. So write our answer, 2 parentheses. Split up your x squared into an x and an x, and my answers were a positive 2 and a negative 5. Okay, let's find some more difficult ones. Okay, no. All right, so that's factoring trinomials, regular trinomials. I do want to show you what if it has an equals 0. So I'm going to do this one, but I'm going to pretend it says equals 0 because that changes it up a little bit, how we're going to put our answer. If it says equals 0, that means it actually wants you to find an answer. Okay, so let's work through this, and I'm going to show you what to do if you see an equal sign. It all starts the same. First times last is negative 48 n squared. My middle term is 13n. If you've been watching this and you're like, why does she list everyone out? You don't have to. Okay, that's how I like to start so that you kind of see how the list is being built. But if you can look at this and say, well, I know it's not going to be 1 times 48. There's no way that adds to 13. Then you don't have to list it, okay? So I'm not going to do 1 and 48. It could be 2 and 24. It could be, let's see here. Yeah, okay, this is good too. If you don't know how to find your factors, just start dividing. So like when you divide by 2, I know it's 2 and 24. Divide by 3. Okay, so 3 and 16 are another pair. Let's try 4. 4 and 12. So this is how you would build your list. If you're just not good with your multiplication facts, that's totally fine. You have a calculator that'll help. So 5 won't work because we got a decimal. So let's try 6. 6 works, 6 times 8. And last, let's try 7. So 7 doesn't work because we got a decimal also. Okay, so these are my only options. I want to multiply to get a negative. So again, that means one has to be negative and one has to be positive. But I want to add to get the positive. So that means your smaller number will be your negative. So I'm going to make all these smaller numbers negative. Negative 2 plus 4 is 22. That does not work. Negative 3 and 16 is 13. So these are the ones I'm going to use. So again, nothing's changed so far, even though it has an equal sign. So I have an n, split up your n squared into n and n. I got a negative 3, and I got a positive 16. Now, here's where it changes. If you have an equal sign, that means it actually wants the answer. It wants the numbers. So you're going to set this first parentheses equal to 0, and you're going to set the second parentheses equal to 0. And we're just going to solve them. So the way you solve a minus 3 is you do plus 3 on both sides. So n is 3, because 0 plus 3 is 3. Same thing, I'm going to solve this. So to move my 16, I would do minus 16. So 0 minus 16 is negative 16. So my answers are 3 and negative 16. Now, this is big. You only find answers like this, actual numbers, if it says equals 0. All these other ones that we did before, they didn't say equals 0. So we stopped at the 2 parentheses. So if it doesn't have an equal 0, you just stop with your parentheses. If it says equals 0, then you need to solve it all out. I'm going to go ahead and show you another way you can do it also. If you go to Desmos, you know we love our Desmos, and we're going to graph, I'm going to type in the equation. But remember with Desmos we have to use x's, so I'm going to use x squared plus 13x minus, what was it, 48. Okay, so if you look, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can see. Look, it crosses your x-axis twice. And look at where it crosses. It crosses at -16 and it crosses at 3. Well, guess what our answers were? -16 and 3. So if it says equals 0 and you just want to do it on Desmos, I am totally fine with that, as long as you know what you're looking for. When it says equals 0, it means where does it cross your x-axis? Well, it crosses here at -16, that's an answer, and it crosses here at 3, okay? All right, the other thing I'm going to show you is what do you do if there is a coefficient in front of the very first number, right? All of our other ones, there was never a number up front. It's actually pretty easy, guys. So let me show you. We're going to start it the exact same way. First times last. Well, 2 times 6 is 12. And my middle term is 7x. So I could do 1 times 12. I could do 2 times 6. I could do 3 times 4. I want to figure which one adds up to give me 7. And it's 3 plus 4 is 7. So here is where it changes. Whatever coefficient is in front goes to both parentheses. So it would go 2x and 2x, right? I brought down the 2 to both of them. And then my answers were a +3 and a +4. And your very last step is to see, is there a GCF that you can take out? Is there anything that will go into 2 and 3? No. So I'm just going to rewrite that, 2x plus 3. Is there anything that will go into 2 and 4? Yes, 2. 2 will go into both. So I'm going to take a 2 out. 2 divided by 2 is just x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's your final answer. Let's do another one. All right, first times last is 24. Oh, -24, x squared. And my middle term is -10x. So I could do 1 and 24, that won't work. 2 and 12, that's the one that's going to work. And to get -10, my 12 would be the negative. So let's break this down. The 3x goes to both. My answers were a +2 and a -12. We're going to take out our GCF. 3 and 2, nothing will go into those, so I'm just going to rewrite this. 3 and 12, 3 will go into both of those. 3 divided by 3 is just 1x. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that's my final answer. So if there's a coefficient, it works the same way. You just have to make sure that this step you reduce. You see, is there anything that will go into both of them, and you take it out. All right, let's do this one. 7 times 3 is 21 and 22x. So this will be 1 times 21. That adds to give me 22. So I have 7x. That's going to go in the front of both of them, 7x. I have a +1 and a +21. See which one will reduce. And one of them always will reduce. Sometimes both of them will, but one always will. Nothing will go into 7 and 1. 7 and 21, 7 goes into both of them. So 7 divided by 7 is just 1x. 21 divided by 7 is 3. Okay, let me find one where there's a GCF. Okay, perfect. You always want to look for a GCF first for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to make your numbers smaller. And 2, it'll just help you if you pull out the GCF in the first spot instead of trying to remember rules for when you pull it out when you write your final answer. So this one does have a GCF. Remember the way you find your GCF. In case you're not sure what it is, you pick the 2 that are closest. So out of 6, 14, and 12, which 2 are the closest? 12 and 14. You push second 0. We go to 10 because we want to get down to my G's. I want GCD. So I'm going to use 14 and 12. And my GCF is 2. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking a 2 out. Can I take an r out? No, because they all do not have an r. So 6 divided by 2 is 3r squared. 14 divided by 2 is 7r. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And now we're going to do it the same way. First times last is negative 18r squared. Your middle term is negative 7r. So I could do 1 and 18. I could do 2 and 9. I could do 3 and 6. It's going to be 2 and 9. To add up to make it negative 7, the 9 has to be the negative. So, writing our answer, you got to write that 2 because we took that out to start with. Remember, your 3 comes down to both, so 3r and 3r. My answers were right here, positive 2 and a negative 9. Okay, and then last step, reduce. Will anything go into 3 and 2? No, so I'm just going to leave that 3r plus 2. Will anything go into 3 and 9? Yes, 3 will. So 3 divided by 3 just leaves us with r. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So this is your final answer for this problem. Make sure you put your GCF in as part of your final answer. Let me see. I want to do one more with a GCF. All right, let's do this one. So the GCF is going to be 2. 2 goes into all of these. So let's divide out a 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4m squared. 8 divided by 2 is 4m. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So first times last is negative 12. Your middle term is 4. So what can I do? I could do 1 and 12, that won't work. 2 and 6, that works. And if my 2 is a negative, then they'll add to give me a positive. So let's break this down. I got 4m in front, so that's going to, oh, this is great because both of them are going to reduce. I wanted to just see one like this. My answers were negative 2 and positive 6. Okay, last step. Let's reduce. Will anything go into 4 and 2? Yes, 2 goes into both. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Will anything go into 4 and 6? Yes, 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this is your final answer. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes both parentheses will have a GCF that you can pull out. Okay? And so I think you're good. Okay, so this is one. Sometimes all you can do is factor it out of the GCF, and that's okay. So this you can take a 3 out. So let's take a 3 out. So I'm left with x squared. I'm left with 3x. And 21 divided by 3 is 7. Let's make our t-chart. So we would get 7x squared and 3x. The only way to get 7 is 1 times 7. And those do not add up to be 3. So this is one that from this point, it's not factorable. Okay? But you wouldn't put not factorable because we did factor out a GCF. So that's what you would put as your answer. Okay, so if you would go try your worksheet and let me know if you need help.